Really? Yeah? Okay. Yep, got it. Hey guys, I'm Jasmine, and that was Puppy, and today I'm gonna answer the popular question, which is, why do we add supplements to raw cat food? And specifically to the recipe on catladyfitness.com, which follows the protocol of one of my go-to resources when it comes to raw cat food, which is feline-nutrition.org. If you're new here and like learning about cat stuff, especially things having to do with raw cat food and kitty nutrition, and if you like things for humans, including recipes and workouts and nature things and whatever else I feel like posting, then please join us in the Cat Lady Fitness family by clicking on the subscribe button below, because we do put out a new video every Caturday. Ooh, and let's kick off this video for a change with the meowed out of the week, which goes to two people this week actually. So Stargazer and Arthur Rock, thank you both for commenting all the time and just making my day and Puppy's day, of course, with your funny and just incredibly kind things that you have to say. And for anyone who potentially wants to be the meowed out of the week in next Caturday's video, all you have to do is make sure that you are a subscriber to Cat Lady Fitness and leave a comment below, and you can possibly be the next meowed out of the week. So if you've been around here for a while, then you know that I touch on the question, the subject of today's video, basically in every video having to do with nutrients or raw cat food. But seeing as it's a popular comment that continues to get commented on old videos, I figured it would behoove of me to make an actual video entitled, "Do you need to add supplements to homemade raw cat food?" Or why do we add supplements to raw cat food, or whatever the title ends up being of this video. I guess maybe I should have figured that out before I actually filmed this. Now, when it comes to adding supplements to raw cat food or homemade cat food, it seems to mainly come from people who say, well, isn't the purpose of raw cat food to feed your cat like it was in the wild and like its ancestors, and to feed it naturally and in nature? You don't add supplements to food. They don't have a Whole Foods for lions and jaguars over in Africa. And to those people, I say I don't completely disagree with you. I mean, the whole purpose of feeding raw cat food is to feed a diet that is close to what is species appropriate for them and what is inherently honoring their instinct. Also, I've never heard of there being a Whole Foods for big cats in Africa, but if there was, that would be amazing. But what is important to understand is that when it comes to raw feeding for cats, there are different categories and different tiers of raw feeding. Just like when it comes to humans, for example, who want to eat a diet based on whole foods, there are different categories and tiers, like paleo or vegan or Whole30 or keto or whatever the diet may be, which I do touch on that more in my book for humans, the Holistic Fitness Starter Guide. So to start off, my priority with Puppy, who is my cat, by the way, if you haven't met him, here's a clip or a picture of him doing something incredibly cute in some way. But my priority in his diet has always been to feed him something that not only honors his inherent instincts as a feline, but also something that is species appropriate. What's important to me as a cat owner or cat slave, I mean, I guess it's relative how you look at it, is providing him with a diet that's nutritionally balanced, affordable, maintainable long-term, and one that he will actually eat and actually seems to enjoy in order for him to live his healthiest, happiest, longest life. So like I just mentioned, there are a few different categories when it comes to raw feeding for cats, and I'm gonna get more into those in a separate video. Otherwise, this one will be even longer than it's probably already going to be. But some of these include feeding your cat the whole animal or whole animal parts like the premodel diet. And if you've already done your research, you may know this already, but in the premodel diet, many people choose not to add any supplements to the food. Some do, but many, or dare I even say most people feeding their cat that premodel diet don't add supplements. And again, it's the whole argument that you are supposed to be feeding your cat a species appropriate diet, something that mimics what they would eat in nature, and they wouldn't get supplements in nature. They would get enough of their nutrients straight from the meat and organs and bones and basically animal that they're eating. But needless to say, we don't follow that protocol. And for the most part, you will find that supplements are not only recommended and included, but necessary when feeding your cat any other type of raw food diet. I would even argue that it's a good idea to add certain nutrients and supplements, even if you are feeding your cat a premodel diet or any variation of raw food or any variation of homemade food especially. I mean, if it's cooked, there's no doubt that there have to be certain nutrients and vitamins fortified or added back in. Especially if you're feeding your cat homemade raw food and you are buying and using commercial meats and organs from your local grocery store, and especially if you choose to feed your cat homemade raw food that is ground up. If you don't add certain supplements and nutrients in, it's almost a guarantee, I would say, that at some point sooner than later, your cat's going to be at risk for some kind of deficiency or health issues due to the lack in these vital nutrients. Now, unlike how supplements should be approached in humans that, of course, are generally healthy and don't have some kind of genetic disposition to a deficiency or something else going on that affects how they absorb nutrients, but in a relatively generally healthy human being, supplements should be approached for exactly what they are and what they identify as. They should be approached as supplemental or an additional means to ideally what should be a solid fundamental diet based on whole foods, which ideally, again, would provide most of these nutrients as is. Now with cats and homemade food, definitely homemade cooked food, but even with homemade raw cat food, even though they're getting in adequate macronutrients that they require, which includes, of course, high protein and moderate fat, as well as measurable amounts of micronutrients like taurine, for example, which is provided in the meat and the chicken hearts, as well as the number of vitamins and minerals provided in other ingredients like the egg yolks, for example, and the chicken livers. These whole food parts of the recipe alone do not fulfill the nutritional requirements of your cat according to the standards of the Association of American Feed Control Officials, for example. And so it is in our best interest to enrich or fortify our homemade raw cat food in order to ensure that it is as nutritionally balanced as we can get it according to these guidelines, while also mimicking what they would eat in the wild. In other words, the supplements that are included in the recipe for homemade raw cat food on catladyfitness.com are not optional, but they are necessary. Like I mentioned, even though the meat and the organs do contain a good number of nutrients, the exact concentration or amounts of these nutrients in what we are particularly buying can vary depending on so many different factors, including husbandry practices, their farm feed while being raised and in production, how long the meat is actually frozen before you get it, also the processing or the grinding if you're going that route with raw cat food. In a nutshell, it is virtually impossible for the everyday consumer to have the exact amount of micronutrient in what you are feeding your cat. Not only do most of us have no control of these different factors, but we don't even have the means to the information. And I don't know if any of you watch Portlandia, but this just reminded me of that episode where they're eating at the restaurant and ordering a chicken and wanting to find out as much information as they can about the chicken, and the server brings out a report card with the chicken's picture and the farm they came from, and I believe the chicken's name was Colin. Now, all of that being said, a few of you have written in the comments and even written me sharing that you do grow your own meat for your cat's food, that you grow your own poultry or rabbits, and to you, amazing people, I just want to give you props and say that is legit. Truly. I mean, major respect to anybody who not only has the means and the time, but the pure kitty commitment in order to do that. But I don't fall under that category when it comes to just blatant overachievement in how I'm going to feed my beloved cat. And I know, or get the feeling, that most of you watching are kind of in the same boat as I am when it comes to that. So back to the supplements. When it comes to certain ones, like the taurine and B complex, for example, a deficiency in these particular nutrients not only proves as incredibly dangerous, but potentially fatal to your cat. Not to mention, these nutrients are very sensitive to lose potency or denature in any food. This is by means of heating, of freezing, grinding, and even simply air exposure to an extent. That said, nutrients like taurine and B vitamins are also water soluble, meaning that if your cat gets too much of it, toxicity is incredibly rare because any excess that your cat gets, it will simply urinate out or poop out into the litter box. So not only is adding such nutrients necessary, but in doing so, you're also being safe rather than sorry. Now keep in mind, when it comes to supplements and adding vitamins, you do want to be careful and possibly avoid adding the vitamins that are fat soluble, because it is these types of vitamins that have a higher risk for toxicity since they aren't easily excreted from the system. This is why that even though we do add supplemental vitamin E to the recipe, you may have noticed that it is such a small, minimal amount to the point where you guys have messaged me and said, is it really necessary to add this into the recipe? Now, other vitamins that are fat soluble that we do not add to the recipe and that you really want to be cautious using any supplements for are vitamin D and vitamin A. Not only are these vitamins actually measurably provided in the ingredients in the recipe. For example, the chicken livers are high in vitamin A in particular. Oh my god. Yep. What are your thoughts? Do you want to tell them about supplements? But basically, in the case of fat-soluble vitamins, most feline nutritionists tend to agree that it is safer to potentially under-supplement. Now, all of this talk about supplements in raw cat food, and we haven't even touched on the fact that there are quite a few companies offering supplemental premixes to add to your raw cat food. These premixes are exactly what they sound like, and basically make it so that you just have to add the premix to the raw meat, or sometimes it's raw meat and bones, sometimes it's just raw meat and livers. That said, if you go the route of a premix, then it's really important to follow the directions of the specific premix that you're getting, because you want to avoid certain health risks that may come from over supplementation. For example, make sure if it already has calcium in the premix, then you probably don't want to add bone, and it will tell you in the specific directions. If your cat suffers from hyperthyroidism or is more susceptible to it, then you probably want to avoid a premix that has iodine from kelp in it. And since I'm sure somebody is going to ask which one I might recommend, I don't have a recommendation for that. I've researched them a little bit, of course, because a lot of people have already asked about them, but I haven't done enough research to feel comfortable suggesting any which one, which is why I always recommend you guys do plenty of research on your own. But that said, since I do get so many questions about premixes and the supplements and raw cat food in general, I'm sure that I will have a video in the future potentially comparing different kinds of premixes, and who knows, maybe we are going to venture that direction ourselves at some point. But Thus far, what has worked best for Puppy and me is making the raw food at home, the recipe that you guys see on catladyfitness.com, and even using the same exact recipe calculator that you guys use. I made it for you, of course, to help you guys out because I wish that I would have found most of the resources and information that you see here and on the cat stuff playlist when I was starting off our raw cat food journey. Now, when it comes to making sure that your cat is getting not only sufficient nutrients, but optimal nutrients, as I've spoken about in past videos as well, we do vary the protein or meat in the raw cat food recipe from time to time. For example, our default recipe has always been the chicken thigh version, which is featured in the first how to make raw cat food video, and it's also what the recipe is based upon on the website. But the past couple of months we've been doing turkey and beef, and before that we were doing chicken with lamb. And I do have a video discussing the differences I noticed in Puppy when trying out different meats, so make sure to go check that out in the cat stuff playlist. By changing up the protein source or meat in the recipe that you use for raw cat food, you're also potentially filling in any nutrient gaps that may happen if your cat was to eat the same exact food forever. This is even the case if you're using a supplemental premix, and if you've looked into it, even those premix companies do suggest to change up the protein and then get the corresponding premix for the protein or meat source that you're using. As for how often to change the meat source, because I know people are going to ask about that, I'll be talking about that in an upcoming video. But all of this being said, the most important thing that you always want to do is to monitor your individual cat, whether it is their behavior or activity level, or their appearance, their coat, their eating and drinking habits, or of course the more obvious signs of certain health issues or discomfort. The best thing that you can do is to monitor them as an individual cat in order to learn what their baseline of health is, and then you can more accurately gauge any deficiencies or health issues that may benefit from a change or improvement in their diet. For any of you who are new here, welcome, and I do invite you to explore the Cat Stuff playlist. In that playlist, you are likely to find the answer to whatever question you have. For example, I already have a number of videos up for each individual nutrient and why they are important to your cat's health. This includes a trilogy of videos about the importance of taurine, why cats need B vitamins, the benefits of egg yolk, a video about iodine and also hyperthyroidism in cats, and a whole lot more, so please go definitely check that out. Alright guys, I hope you found this video interesting or helpful and that it helped to bring some clarity to why we add supplements to our raw cat food recipe and why it is probably a good idea for you to add some to your raw cat food as well. Please make sure, if you did find value here, to share it with any kitty parents that you may know. Also, remember to click that thumbs up below if you liked this video, and to click the subscribe button as well as the little bell icon right next to it so that you can get notified whenever new videos or posts or even stories go up. Look at how handsome! Yeah. Are you sad? Are you upset because I interrupted you cleaning? As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you in the next video. Bye!